Hello everyone and welcome back. So we are going to finish up a few small things here. Essentially we are going to finish what we started at the last part. So we're going to wrap this guy up and sort of work in this tube here and connect it to this guy that we made at the very start. After that is done, we are going to do a few little cleanup thingies here. Very small. Yeah, and then we're going to move on to the back. The back is going to be probably the next part, and I think that's it. I think that'll do it. I think I've decided that we probably won't be adding this in, so I'm actually just going to put this on top and replace it. Yeah, the next part we'll do the back, and that's where we're going to end it. That's going to be it for this stage, and then we can start putting stuff in Zbrush. So that's super exciting. Let's go ahead and continue along though. Essentially all we have to do with this part is add this sort of spring. This top or tip piece sort of goes into a hook and then it wraps around one of the spikes. I'd imagine there's probably like an indent that we could add in here. So let's actually go ahead and do that first. Adding an indent should be pretty easy. If we just, let's add like a cut here and close it off. Just using the cut tool, of course. And then we can delete that. We can, let's see, maybe extrude this down, extrude this back. And then add in some cuts for it to line up with. Add one on this side as well. Just gotta snap this on there. Merge vertices. Merge them, and then should be able to bridge across. Maybe not. Bridge. Yeah, that's not going to work. So let's go ahead and first of all, maybe this isn't the best way to do it. I'm going to undo all of this. I'm thinking we could probably hook it into one of these spikes and it should be just fine. So let's just kind of go for that instead. Yeah, I don't think that really matters, but let's focus on getting this sort of hook shape. The easiest way I can think about doing it is just punching a cylinder through it with a Boolean. So I'm just going to duplicate this guy, rotate it 90 degrees. And then sort of get it in position. Somewhere like so. This is where this Boolean tool comes in really handy because as you guys have seen throughout, we can select the two of them and do difference and then just sort of manipulate this guy in real time. If we center the pivot, of course, can kind of get a better feeling for it. Don't want it to be anything too like cartoonish. But it's definitely something that could latch onto pretty easily. Okay, clean up, delete history and base objects. Let's go ahead and isolate this guy. Since we're gonna have to clean this up a little bit, we can just bridge these across just to fill it up. G, of course, is repeat last command. So I can just select the edges that I want to bridge and press G. And then, like I said, I don't want it to be so cartoony, so I'm going to kind of get rid of some of these edges. Maybe every other edge. And then that's going to let us adjust the shape a little bit easier. Something more hook-like, something like this. And then more emphasis on this tip, so something can actually get caught on that. Liking that quite a bit. Might actually want to make this all a bit deeper. Okay, pretty happy with how that's looking. And then we have this spring bridging between the two. Lucky for us, we made something very similar. Where was it? Right here. I want to see if we can reuse any of this. I have a feeling maybe not. I rotate it, and if I were to scale it, I mean, I guess we can use a decent amount of it. I'm going to rotate the pivot like so and just try and squish it so the spring seems a bit more compressed. And then reset the pivot by pressing D and clicking off, or changing it back to world. Go ahead and scale this up. It's a bit of a thicker one. And let's see what we have to work with here. Yeah, let's delete everything but the spring itself. We can kind of just do some pretty basic extrusions to get it a bit more lined up with what we think looks good. So have that have that wrapping, and then we can just do some really basic extrude and turns. Like so. Looks like it's wrapped around there pretty tight. We want to give it lots of tension, so no kind of bends or extra edges anywhere. We want it to be a very tight fit. Can then fill a hole there, and that's one side done. Onto the side. Seems that this is quite a bit larger than it should be, so I'm going to scale this down. But same principles. Want to keep it as straight as possible. Seems like we're gonna have to pull it out a little bit. And in doing so, it's gonna mess this up a bit, so a little bit of massaging is gonna be needed. delete that edge loop. It'll probably give us a better transition overall. But yeah, it definitely seems like we're just at the point where we can just reuse geometry in so many places. It ends up saving us a ton of time. We've made so much on this model alone, right? Okay, that's doing a pretty good job. Maybe even delete an extra one. Better transition. Space it all out even more. I'll shrink this as well to match. Yeah, we just kind of want to do what we did on the other side and just sort of rotate it in. So extruding, holding shift and dragging. Very, very basic. Just kind of straighten that out. And we can fill hole. And then, as always, just kind of massage these shapes a little bit. Kind of have a nice tight spring connection there. Cool. If I turn off wireframe, looks tight. I might actually want to grab all the main verts and scooch them over to center it all a little bit. Scale them a little bit as well. There we go. I like how there's a bit of space, so it kind of looks like it's being pulled. Cool, so that'll do it for that guy. That's one off of the list. The next one was this guy. So I'd previously mentioned in the last part, if you look at this reference, there's kind of this pole going all the way off to the side here in a lot of these references. And the only thing I could think of that it would be connected to is this lever here, because we never actually figured out what this is attached to. We made it at the very start, and it would make sense if it was attached. Now, the only issue is there's no real reference showing what this bar itself is attached to. We do have one image that sort of shows it off. This guy, it seems to be plugged into something. I can't tell if that's plugged into the top or if it's attached to the side of this for some reason. I could definitely see it being either or. But the caveat to that is, where exactly does this guy slide in? It doesn't seem like it's too deep in. It seems like it's relatively close to the same depth as this. This seems to be in front of this piece. So the only place I could really fit this placeholder guy is right in the middle here. But I suppose we could like if we put it to the side, like it's pretty far out there now. So I'm thinking this is the best place to put it. But it's mostly trying to find something to connect it to. This end is easy, like we know where we can connect it to. But yeah, where exactly do we plug it in on this side? To me, this looks like it's either coming from the top or it's a attachment from like the side of this. But I guess we could look at the reference a little bit more. Like that line there might be it going up. Could be attaching to the piece we just worked on. We can explore other reference. Like, yeah, there it is. And it kind of like, if that's the best lead we have, I can confidently say this piece looks like it's going up or attaching to the top. This side, I can't even tell if it has it. This one, once again, you can't really see it. This one, it's very clearly there. Stopping in line with the piece that we made. Tricky, kind of hard to tell. There's just always been like a hidden reference that shows what I'm looking for. So I'm just making sure I'm not skipping over any of these guys. This one doesn't show it. But it is kind of odd that our main reference here, unless this is it. Is this it? Let me take a screenshot of it. Paste it next to everything. Something about that seems different though. Doesn't seem like it's plugging into the same thing. I think it's this, yeah, this is what we're looking at, something totally different. So, if I can't think of anything, I don't want to keep you guys waiting, so let's experiment with what it could be. So, I like the idea of it being attached to the roof here. That's what the reference sort of symbolized based on everything we've seen. And I do like the idea of it plugging into this joystick here. Or it's not necessarily a joystick, but it does come across that way visually. So if I find a good place here that matches the reference, how high it is, it's about close to the bottom of the dip. So yay high. Pretty close in there. I can have a piece coming down and sort of wrapped around it like so. And we can have that piece coming from up here. So the easiest way I could see us doing that would be let's start with a cube and then attach later. So let's work on building the shape, but then attaching it will be our secondary concern. So I'll just spawn a cube in here. We can snap it to the center. Kind of go for this look here. I think we might have to pull this over a little bit. So to get this look, we have to get the angle right. The angle's about here. So pull it forward a little bit. The box seems pretty thin. Like so. And then, yeah, it goes up. We could either have it attaching to the top, or we could have it attaching to the side. just want to see if I shimmy this around a little bit to like so. Yeah, it's cutting through there. About there. Yeah, that leaves us with some space. Maybe I'll just thin this out a little bit and thin this out a little bit. Grab all the verts and pull it up. Can just maybe extend this back a little bit, maybe to line it up here and line it up here. Kind of get this chamfered look by pulling this up and just beveling the two ends. It's pretty much what this shape is, right? Okay, so now we got to see how it's going to connect on this side. So let's go ahead and isolate these key pieces here. So things are certainly misaligned, but we can just extrude over and extrude up. That should be pretty simple. Let's just have these two guys isolated and work on how we're going to connect them. First and foremost, we can vertex snap this to the middle here. And then work on turning this 90 degrees. So we kind of did something similar in the last part where if we hit Control E, we can then go back to our move tool and we'll have an extruded face on top of this face. We can press D to open our pivot selection, move it to the corner with vertex snapping, and rotate this 45 degrees. Or 90 degrees? Jesus, I'm messing this up. Either way, we're going to hold J to be snapping. We can merge those guys. Essentially, we're turning it 45, 90. Jesus, I'm really tired. I've been doing a lot of recording today, so this is straight 90, 180, 270, 4. Yeah, okay, Jesus. Okay. I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to move the pivot to the middle. I'm going to snap this to the middle here so it's all lined up now. And we can select all these faces. Extrude this out and just sort of do the exact same thing over again. But this time rotate up. I'm sure you can see where I'm getting at with this. So extrude, move our pivot to the top. Interesting. Did I duplicated instead of extruded? Okay. Control E. Move our pivot to the top. Rotate. And then once again, extrude those faces straight up. Okay, now snap that. Make sure everything's merged. And I'm assuming we're going to have to lower this down. So I'm going to, pull this down a bit. Snap it to the top. Cool. I might want to round this out a little bit more. By going to our cut tool, holding Control and Shift to snap it. And just sort of scaling this. Okay, and we'll do the same here. Okay, cool. We're gonna have to make sure this makes a bit more sense. I think I'm going to want this top part to be a bit thinner, so in order to achieve that, let's go ahead and isolate it. I'm going to add a cut here, flatten it out, and say a cut here. Go ahead and delete this. Bridge and bridge. And the reason I'm doing this is just so that the connection at the top isn't as obtuse. So I think the way that we've connected this works. The more I think about this, the more I'm thinking it doesn't really make sense because there's no mechanical function for turning this and then having it just sort of go into this stud. This isn't really doing anything. To me, it seems more likely that this is plugged in to maybe a pipe, or it just seems like it makes the most sense to be attached to this. So I think I'm actually going to delete that. And then I might even adjust this and bring it down a little bit. Let's see if I can still stick it through here and attach it to this guy. And once again, I'm doing this because I want it to have actual, like a function to it. Even though I don't know exactly what it is and we don't have any reference for it, it just becomes more believable if it's actually plugged into something that would make sense. Like I could see that you affecting this knob affects the tension on this, which then adjusts the quality of something. So I'm just going to pull this back here. And then as for this, I'm going to interpret it as sort of a connection piece coming out of here and attaching on. So this goes back to, I guess, where it's mostly straight. I'm also going to change this to be yellow, so it starts to blend in a bit more with everything. But yeah, let's grab a cube that we can work from here. So let's see the kind of look we're going for. Something along these lines that's attached to this. So I'm going to start by putting my pivot in the corner. Maybe the front corner. Or rather, maybe we could just focus on getting this guy centered and then find a way to attach it to here. So let's thin this out. Like so. Chamfer that guy off. So if we're looking at it from this angle, it's giving the exact same look. The only difference is I'm going to have this then extrude up and then say like extrude out and maybe like attach onto this guy. Maybe that could make sense. Do we have any clear? We have like a little nick here, which maybe I could pass for this being attached to it. If I scale it in. I could maybe have this side snap flush with this piece, and then like say cut this out and say it's like wrapping around it. I'm gonna go for that because that's kind of the best lead we have on a way to attach that to anything. So just using our cut tool. And closing it off. Sorry, it was being kind of finicky there. Selecting these pieces. And now we just have to make sure we snap it all. Snap that guy there. Flatten these guys out and snap them here. And then just want to make sure we don't have any open faces. We can go ahead and bridge these guys across. And then maybe bevel this and pull it back for like a thinner, sharper look to it. Does look a bit odd, doesn't it? Maybe I should raise it up higher. Once again, it's a tricky one because we don't really have any clear reference on it. Maybe it'd be better just to make it as minimal as possible and just do something like that. With it like punching through. kind of changes this look here. Could pull it forward a little bit, just so we can still kind of get this look. Raise it up a wee bit. Like I said, I'm more focused on having an actual functionality to it, so let's actually pull that back. Before I move forward, I just kind of want to address that. If I turn off wireframe, like, does that make sense? I'm already questioning having this go through here. I think that might be kind of silly. The bend can work. But at that point, I might just flip it the other way. Let's center the pivot on this. I'm going to scale it -1 horizontally and just have it wrap around this way. Can undo that. In all honesty, I don't really know what this piece is, so I think I'm going to delete it, and I'll just weld this to the side of here. I just kind of think that's the only solution that works for this. Like, I can just take this, snap it to be flush. Or, sorry, we're going to be doing it with this one. Snap it maybe to here. Add a cut. And then kind of just have it welded on there. It's the only place I can really think of attaching it that would make, yeah, some kind of functional sense. So if we're going to do that, we're going to have to clean this up a little bit. Just by taking all these edges and snapping them down and up. Going to delete this face. Sort of line this up in a place where there's plenty of room. Okay. Then this guy, I'm just going to cut a hole out so that we can snap everything. Just kind of a manual Boolean. Let's merge these. And then delete that face. Oh. Merge vertices. Interesting how these are attached. Not quite sure why that is. Either way, I'm going to extrude an edge here. Merge that to center. Snap that up here. Kind of a quick solution. And then we can snap these guys. Do a mesh combine. Merge vertices. And that part's done. All we have to worry about now is having some kind of hole for this to go through. And for that, I'm just going to do a Boolean. So let's go ahead and smart duplicate these faces and grab this. Going to center pivot. And fill hole on both sides. I'm going to scale it up slightly bigger so we can tell that there's a hole there. And then push it up. Let's go ahead and freeze transforms, delete history on that, and do a new Boolean, making sure it's on difference. Delete history. Extrude that up and fill hole. And it looks kind of shallow, so I'll pull that up. Minor detail, but we can't just have things plugging into nothing. So that'll do that. So that's that part done. That means the sides and all these key contraptions are complete. Like I said, there's a few little things that we have to clean up. This side piece I was experimenting with, and we're gonna have to do some changes. As you can see in this reference image, it kind of smooths out, and then there's an opening for a bolt to go through, and pretty much all of them. I could look at pretty much any of these and the sides, if I can find a reference for it. Yeah, it's kind of smooth and has a bolt going into it. Same here, smooth with a screw or a bolt. They all kind of have that soft transition, so I thought we'd add that, and I did some experimenting off camera and found this look that kind of works. I undid it, so we'll be doing it together here, but I will keep that on screen so I remember what I'm doing. When we start to look at this guy, it's unique enough on both sides that we can't really duplicate it because we have this piece here, like a hole here, a couple other things sprinkled throughout. So I'm going to do it on both sides, one at a time. So following this reference, it seems that I grabbed these, and then I think that 3 and 1 and extruded it out. Maybe not. If I follow this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I only extruded it all one more time. And then I can pull this in, pull this out. And then I think what I did was I pulled these down. keep these guys straight, actually. Let's undo that. I feel like I didn't extrude the correct amount. So, okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to say and then snap this up, maybe? Weird. I don't know how I did this last time. I might be editing this part and just skipping to the part where I remember how to do it. Because I was doing this last night, and as you can see, like, I got the desired look I was going for. I don't know why my brain is not processing what I did here. Extrude, extrude. This connection is definitely like the best hint I have to go off of. How did I get this look? This line. By dragging this down and dragging this down. Okay, we're getting there. Softer transition for sure. Keep this one relatively tucked in. And pull that one in. That's what it would have been. Okay. So we're getting that nice smooth transition. Perfecto. All we have to do now is see this face here isn't properly cut around it. So we're going to have to do a little bit of cutting to get the geo to match. So I'm going to start here and cut. And cut. And then close it off right about here. But let's go ahead and delete this geo underneath. And then we'll find a way to duplicate this over to the other side. Like, we're not going to just cut and mirror everything, but we'll find a way to duplicate it. So we have that softer transition now. Kind of just want to keep these all as straight as possible. Okay. Edges are getting a bit close, so I thought I'd clean that up. Okay, it's looking smooth, and then we need to, punch a hole to put a bolt through. Let's find a good reference for the location of that. Pretty much, yeah, right about here. So I will be using a Boolean for this. Probably just the fastest, easiest way to do it. So let's create a cylinder. Let's drop the subdivs down to something like 16 just so it's easier to clean up later on. And once again, this is all baked information, but still, if we can save a little bit of hassle during cleanup, I'll gladly do so. I want to make sure it's nice and centered. And it's definitely more tucked in, so it seems like a good spot for it. Freeze transforms, delete history. And let's go ahead. Wrong one. Let's grab our Bool manager. New Boolean, clean up, delete history and base objects. Can pull this guy back in. Fill hole. Oh, it does not seem to like that. Are we cutting into... We are. We're cutting into some sort of face here. What is this? Oh, the back side of the mesh has... Geo on it. Yeah, we definitely need to delete that. Okay, good thing we got that. And then there's a circle cutting through. Okay, that's something we were looking for though. Okay, now we can go ahead and fill hole. And let's clean this up since we're going to be duplicating it over. No point in cleaning it up twice. So I'm just going to grab these duplicated or doubled up vertices rather. Snap them. Go ahead and merge verts. Okay. So let's figure out the best way to duplicate this over. I might even make this a bit shallower. So let's freeze transform, delete history. Might as well merge vertices in case there's something we're missing. But yeah, let's select this and think of the best way to duplicate this chunk over. It might be as simple as just kind of selecting this, deselecting all the extra fat we don't really need. Then we could just do a smart duplicate. Let's drag this over so it's its own piece. And yeah, just delete everything we think we probably don't need. The things we don't need are pretty much everything outside of this curve and what it's attached to. And then we can just force a a way to weld it on. Might want to delete this. Don't need to duplicate that over. Pretty much just this. And we're going to need to flip it. So in scale, we're going to do -1 across x. So of course being the x-axis. And then just snapping that where it's supposed to be. And then from here, what we can do is, if we color this red, we can just sort of delete everything that's flickering or around it. What I am going to do though is add the cuts that we need ahead of time. And then, yeah, kind of just go to town, deleting what we don't need. I think that's it. So I should be able to mesh combine, and we can start on doing a bit of a repair here, welding those guys into place. Merge verts. I also noticed this guy, so it is attached down. Okay, good. And then we can just sort of recolor. And yep, now that's smoothed out and we have those colors added. Pretty good. All that's left to do is add a bolt in there. It seems like these are more just sort of circular. Interesting, those weren't straight. Okay. Thought something was off. No, I'm just going to go back to our standard. Let's use this one. Just the most traditional. Color it red, have it close to the exit, rotate it, Control D. Grab this guy, scale it down. Okay. I feel like I did that one wrong. So let's go ahead and try that again. There we go. Sweet, so we got those guys in place. And there was one last thing I kind of wanted to check out this part. I'm not sure if it's actually an issue. But this, it kind of seems like these legs, this part of the frame here, they're kind of hollow. They're hollow, and this part on the inside is a bit thinner. So I wanted to see if this was true. So this part being thinner compared to the corner, I suppose, but this is also from the newer model. Let me find the original old one. So yeah, it definitely seems like it's kind of like hollowed out in there. So that should be pretty easy to do. I'm going to just do it on one and duplicate over like we just did. And then edge loop in the middle. And then bevel it like so. And I can just extrude this up to make it much more hollow. Even scale it in a little bit. Then we can go ahead and merge all these guys off to the side. I suppose I could have just extruded in those top faces, but I mean, this also gets the job done. So there's that. And then as for making them thinner, I think it would just be continuing along this thinness. Which, to do that, all we would really have to do is cut to about here, and then cut down. Do something like that. We could then cut from here. And then essentially I'm just tracing out the same square that's going along here. And we can just sort of delete this geo. And doing so, it gives us the opportunity to extrude this all the way back. Snap that there. Snap that there. Merge vert, and then this we can just fill hole. So that thins out the bottom, thins out that area. Still looks the same from the top. But now we do have to duplicate this over, so let's go ahead and focus on doing that. I'm going to grab these pieces, do a smart duplicate, scale -1 along X, freeze transform, center pivot, and then we'll just delete the corresponding faces on this side. And as long as these were the right faces that I deleted, this should just snap into place for the most part. Minor adjustments needed. Okay, I should be able to combine that and merge. And then I'm also going to go to this area specifically and merge vertices, but turn it up a bit to like 0.01, just in case there were some things that were really close. Maybe 0.0. What does 0.05 get us? It starts to actually combine things. So I'm going to just do 0.01. Just making sure that none of these super close faces got caught up in the mix. And they seem to be good. And that should do it for this part. Nice. Solved this issue. We cleaned up this guy and solved these side problems. Which means the next part, we are going to tackle the back, and the back is the very last thing we have to do. So with the back done, we are moving on to high poly officially. So very excited to get that done. I still admittedly don't exactly know what I am looking at here, but I'll do some research tomorrow. I will get on this, and then that's it. Then we're like actually done this part. There's no more. We're almost done. It's like, no, that's actually it. And we can move on to some really fun stuff in ZBrush. So thank you guys for watching this part. We wrapped up quite a bit, and hopefully you guys are looking forward to finishing things up in the final part. I say that, hopefully nothing comes up that sort of prolongs it, but we'll see. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.